Hey, what's up, lightboltjoe here. Today we are going to discuss the 1977 cult classic film Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. So the original title in 77 was just Star Wars. The 97 re-release title was changed because 99 is when Episode 1 came out, Phantom Menace. So George Lucas wrote and directed this film. He wanted the title to change because 4, 5, and 6 is the middle of the story, and then 1, 2, and 3 is the beginning, the prequel trilogy that he wrote and directed, which started in 99. So with the 97 re-release, there was added scenes, there was added CGI. Like, if you're watching an original copy from 77 to 97, you don't see the Jabba and Han scene where Jabba is CGI and they're talking and you got Boba Fett standing in the corner. Like, Boba's not introduced until Empire, so not Empire, Return of the Jedi or Empire. I don't remember. I haven't seen these films in a long time. I've been up to date with all the shows, the singular stories, Rogue One, Solo. I haven't watched the original trilogy in quite some time, so it's a good refresh, and it's also fun throwbacks of seeing where certain scenes or certain props in certain TV shows go back to the original 77 film. Anyway, if you're watching the first 20 years worth of the film being out, different. Original compared to the 97 re-release, it's different. So if you're watching it on Disney Plus, which I just did, you get the 97 re-release, and at the end credits, and I specifically waited to see this, it says 97 Lucasfilm property. So it's interesting how things change, but it's interesting how things evolve. So when this came out in 77, it broke many expectations. It broke many expectations within the toy industry, within the film industry. Everyone wanted sci-fi stuff at that point. So it was very cool watching that come about. Now, Star Trek was around since the 60s, and then Star Wars came about, and there's always been conflict between Star Trek fans and Star Wars fans. So there's a difference, though. Trek is more communal, Epcot kind of mindset of let's work together for a better tomorrow. Star Wars is just war, and it's very parallel to the Vietnam War in regards to imperialism and nationalism, stuff of that nature. So it's interesting watching the parallels from something from so long ago. It's still prevalent and relevant today, where you have the original prequel trilogy is all about separatists versus the Republic, and then you have in the sequel, or the original, if you will, is all about the rebellion versus the Empire, because the Republic turned into the Empire, and then the Empire turned into the First Order. And then in the sequel trilogy, 7, 8, and 9, you have the Resistance versus the First Order. So it's interesting watching things change, and it's interesting watching things evolve as the story progresses. But when you're just watching this original first iteration of the entire franchise, it's a very simple story. And you forget how simple the story is compared to the Clone Wars TV show, which is 7 seasons, compared to The Mandalorian, compared to all these different things. You know, we're on Tatooine for beginning of this film, and I don't think they reference Tatooine. I don't think it's called Tatooine. It's just called the Sand Planet or Sand People. They're not even called Tuskens. Like, Jawas are called Jawas, and Mos Eisley is called Mos Eisley. That's Jabba's territory. But, like, it's not... I don't remember them saying the word Tatooine at all. And we know that that's the Sand Planet in Tatooine. That's where Luke grows up. That's where Jabba's territory is, etc., right? We're always in Tatooine. We're in Tatooine in Mandalorian. We're in Tatooine in the Book of Boba Fett. Like, we're always at Tatooine. But I don't remember them saying the word Tatooine in this show, which is interesting. And, like Bantha is not referenced as Bantha, but, like, I know that word. So it's interesting watching this now, knowing things, compared to then, which you didn't know things. You're only given the information you're given. So Luke Skywalker is growing up as a farmer on Tatooine with his aunt and uncle, and we start out the film on a Rebel Runner, where Princess Leia is giving R2-D2 the plans that we see at the very end of Rogue One, how the plans get to the Rebel Runner of Darth Vader and stormtroopers going into the ship. And, bro, the chills that everyone gets watching that, knowing it leads directly into the beginning of this film. I still have goosebumps just thinking about it. Watching all those reaction videos of people crying because of how impeccably insane it is of scene to scene, the perfect transition where Rogue One literally ends where New Hope begins. It's just flawless and it's incredible, absolutely incredible with the throwbacks, with the visualization, everything. So we have Darth Vader and company trying to obtain the plans that were stolen, which is the mechanic schematics of the Death Star, which is this massive spaceship which can destroy planets. We see it destroy Alderaan when Princess Leia refuses to cooperate in giving up the Rebel Alliance base. We see all these different things. So while Leia is imprisoned on the Death Star, Luke meets up with Obi-Wan Kenobi, who he knows as Old Ben Kenobi, the hermit in the mountains, because the droid is now in possession of Luke's family. So R2-D2 and C-3PO are escape the rebel ship, the rebel runner. They hijack a pod. They blast off into Tatooine. The Jawas pick them up. The Jawas sell them to Luke's family. R2 is on a mission now to get to Obi-Wan, to get the plans to Obi-Wan. So in the process of Luke and C-3PO and R2-D2 getting to Obi-Wan, they're attacked by Tusken Raiders. But again, they're not called Tusken Raiders. They're just called Sand People in this film. But then while that's happening, stormtroopers attack Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru's farm, and the burned skeletons are still creepy all these decades later. So it's now a matter of how do they escape Tatooine? How do they get off the planet to then get the plans to the Rebel Alliance as they're supposed to? So they're supposed to get the plans to Alderaan because that's where Princess Leia is supposed to be, Alderaan. So they meet up with Han Solo and Chewbacca. A business agreement is made to fly the Millennium Falcon to Alderaan. By the time they get to Alderaan, Alderaan's destroyed. They get sucked into the tractor beam of the Death Star as a TIE fighter is swooping the area anyway, doing a clearance run. So then a lot of the story takes place on the Death Star. What happens when you're on the Death Star? How do we disguise ourselves as stormtroopers? The garbage compactor scene is hysterical and still beautiful and referenced constantly to this day. Saving the princess, but it's really her saving them, which is just so badass and very feministic moving forward. Back in 77, that was very cool seeing now, and it's cool seeing it then as well. So then escaping, knocking the power out, getting the Falcon, going to the Rebel Alliance base on a moon. I forget what planet the moon is off of. They say it, I don't remember. But Luke meets up with his friend Biggs at this base, and they're reliving memories and saying, it's just gonna be like old times. And Luke always wanted to get off Tatooine because his friend Biggs is gone, and he's gone to the academy, and he's done this and he's done that. I would love a teenage Luke and Biggs buddy comedy kind of TV show. Their adventures flying through Tatooine, as teenagers. I think that would be absolutely awesome. I think it would do so well. The teenage Luke years, the teenage Luke and Biggs years, Biggs years. I think that'd be really cool. You don't really see that much Biggs merchandise, but I think that'd be really neat. I think that would be a really good TV show because we're always doing TV shows within the universe, so we could do a Luke and Biggs rom-com event kind of a thing, a buddy comedy TV series. I think that would be really well as them learning how to fly. That'd be fun. I like that idea. Anyway, so the plans are analyzed. They figure out they have to shoot certain missiles within this certain compartment to blow up, and it was designed that way, and we know all that because of Rogue One. Magic. Oh, storyboarding is just beautiful. So then we have our fights, and we have our conflicts, and we have all these different things, and the Rebel Alliance Luke is now piloting an X-Wing fighter, Red 5, and so he's the one who gets the chance and blows up the Death Star in the midst of, prior to the escape of, Obi-Wan dying at the hands of Darth Vader, getting their backstory briefly, that they knew each other, that they trained with each other back during the Clone Wars. Woo! What we know now, bro. What we know now. The lightsaber fighting in this is super weak compared to what we've seen in previous. But again, is the first installment, so they were learning the grounds. And then there's the massive celebration at the end. So, legacy. Let's talk about pop culture. It's just so poignant within everything. There's not one person who doesn't know what Star Wars is. You reference Star Wars, they have some iteration of what within the film franchise that's been going on since 1977. Star Wars is the reason Marvel Comics didn't go bankrupt. Star Wars is the reason Lego didn't go bankrupt. Star Wars has a lot of pull. A lot of pull. And now that Disney owns Lucasfilm, it's very interesting watching these Disney Lucasfilm Star Wars shows via Disney Plus. Incredible. The sequel series 7 was really good. Another a nice beautiful in bringing it to the next gen kind of a thing. But then 8 and 9 are just, bro, what happens? Like, we talked about 9 when it first came out, and it was just so embarrassing, and it's just horrible what they did to the characters, and I'm very upset still. But it is what it is. Can't really change it. It is what it is. Thankfully, we have all these TV shows bringing out different aspects, and I can't wait for the Ahsoka show, and Rebels is just the best TV show ever, and it's great seeing. Bro, when Darth Maul and Ahsoka Tano were fighting for the Darksaber on Mandalore, freaked out within the last season of Clone Wars. It's just, you could just reference anything. There's just decades and decades and decades worth of material. There's a whole comic line, there's a whole novelization line. It's wonderful. And it's also interesting why the sequel series 7, 8, and 9 didn't take any reference to the books. Because there's books. I don't know. I don't know that much. I don't know that much about the sequel stuff. I might look into it. I might not look into it. I've been very nervous wanting to talk about the Star Wars franchise because there's so much to talk about. But I think it's okay to gloss over certain meaningful impacts, gloss over the plot points, gloss over this, gloss over that. It's also like I'm a big Star Wars Lego builder. So like I have a bunch of ships hanging from my ceiling. I just built an X-Wing while let me grab it actually. I just built an X-Wing, Luke's X-Wing, Red 5 actually, while while I was watching the movie. It's so cool. You know, when I was much younger, you know, I had original 90s Lego sets and early 2000s Lego sets. I had all these different sets hanging from my ceiling, and as I got older, I had bills to pay and I sold them off, and it kills me now knowing how much they would have been now as opposed to 2 years ago when I sold them, but it is what it is. Look how cool this is. Look at that. You just literally, you press a button and the wings unfold. Genius. We didn't have this tech when I was a youth. We had to put rubber bands around the blasters at the back, the boosters at the back. Man, I can't talk. The B words are hard today. Anyway, Star Wars is great within plot. It's great within nostalgia. It's great within media. It's great within franchise. It's great within fandom. It's very cool to have different aspects. I don't like the good versus bad aspect of it. I'm not a big fan of the Jedi versus Sith aspect of Star Wars, but that's fine. There's the piloting aspect of it. There's the tech aspect of it. There's the mech aspect of it. There's the pirate aspect of it. There's the bounty hunter aspect of it. There's the mafia aspect of it. Star Wars is not just Sith versus Jedi. It's everything. And that's what's cool about it. The Force is everywhere, within everyone. May the Force be with you. So, we're going to keep up. We already talked about Solo, and we talked about episode 9. So we just talked about episode 4. So technically I have 9 more theatrical films to discuss. We're going to get through them all. We got a long weekend ahead of us. We got this. On to the next review. Mucho mahalo.